I never thought I'd feel this way, constantly squeezed by numbers on a screen, caught in a grind that doesn't seem to stop. Every morning, I wake up with this low-level anxiety buzzing in my chest, like a warning alarm I can't silence. The world keeps moving forward, expenses rising like a relentless tide, and I'm stuck paddling hard just to stay afloat. It's this gnawing feeling that no matter how much I work, it'll never be enough. I graduated college with a decent degree and high hopes. Back then, I imagined myself building a life where money wasn't the monster under the bed but just a tool to do what I love, maybe travel, maybe start a family someday, maybe even save enough to own a small place. But reality had a different plan. I found a job, not glamorous, not high-paying, but stable enough to cover rent and bills. At first, I thought, okay, this is just the beginning. I'll climb up. But the climb feels endless, and the peak invisible. Rent alone devours nearly half my paycheck. The neighborhood isn't what I dreamed of, but it's the only place I can afford. Groceries? I've become a master of sales, coupons, and second-best brands. Sometimes I skip fresh fruits or lean proteins just to stretch my budget, knowing full well my health will pay for it later. Utilities, transportation, phone bills, they all chip away quietly, adding up to a mountain of expenses that grows faster than I can replenish. I don't buy coffee out anymore, I make it at home, reheating it so many times I've lost count. I cancel plans when it involves spending more than a few dollars, which lately feels like every plan. Friends ask why I'm disappearing, but it's embarrassing to admit I'm broke again, even though I know they'd understand. Social isolation sneaks in as a side effect of financial pressure, another price I pay. Debt looms like a shadow I can't outrun. Student loans from years ago still hang heavy, their interest ticking upward, quietly, inexorably. Credit cards fill the gaps when something unexpected comes up, a medical bill, a car repair, or even just a bad week. Then I'm caught in a cycle of minimum payments and growing interest, a trap disguised as a lifeline. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if it's my fault. Maybe I should have made different choices, worked harder, or been smarter with money. But the truth is, the system is rigged in ways that aren't always visible. Wages have barely budged while prices soar. Every government report talks about inflation, economic recovery, and growth, but I only see the bills getting higher and my paycheck staying stubbornly the same. It feels like running on a treadmill that speeds up with no end in sight. Sometimes I cry in the shower because I don't want anyone to hear. I want to scream at the world for making life this hard for people like me, for putting dreams out of reach with invisible barriers. I want to shout that I'm tired of scrimping and saving, tired of sacrificing little joys, tired of feeling like I'm less because I don't have more. And yet, somehow, I keep going. I've learned small acts of self-care and resilience, moments of quiet gratitude for what I do have, like a hot meal or a kind word from a coworker. I write lists of goals, even if they feel distant, pay off one credit card, build a small emergency fund, maybe take a cheap vacation someday. I dream of a day when I'm not constantly watching my bank balance like a hawk, when I can say yes to more than just necessities. The dreams I had to postpone hurt the most. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond these city limits, to walk foreign streets, to feel alive in new places. I wanted to buy a little house with a garden, where I could plant flowers and maybe grow vegetables. I wanted to save for graduate school or start a creative project that felt meaningful. But these hopes sit on a shelf for now, gathering dust as I wrestle with monthly expenses and unexpected costs. It's hard to explain to someone who's never lived it, the exhaustion that comes not just from work, but from the mental weight of constantly strategizing every dollar, every decision. The endless calculations, is it worth eating out? Should I fix my phone or make do until it breaks completely? Can I afford to fill the gas tank this week or do I need to bike in the rain? These questions dominate my thoughts in a way that feels both mundane and overwhelming. I'm learning to be honest with myself about how this pressure affects my emotional well-being. Some days I feel like I'm barely holding it together, like the stress might crack me open. I struggle with feelings of shame, frustration, and sometimes hopelessness. But I'm also learning that vulnerability is strength, and it's okay to admit when I'm overwhelmed. talking about it here, even to an unseen listener, helps. There's a small flicker of hope that keeps me going. Maybe one day, wages will catch up, or I'll find a better job, or the cost of living will stabilize. Maybe I'll build connections that help me get through tough times. Maybe I'll find ways to live more simply without losing joy. Maybe I'll finally take that trip, hold that house key in my hand, and look back at this time not with regret, but as the fire that forged my resilience. Until then, I'm navigating this tightrope, trying to balance survival and dreams, accepting that the system isn't fair, but refusing to let it define my worth or extinguish my hopes. I'm learning to find beauty in small moments and strength in persistence. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough for now. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd end up feeling this way, like I'm running a race I'll never win. It's not that I'm lazy or irresponsible. I work 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to keep my head barely above water. But the truth is, no matter how hard I try, the bills keep piling up faster than the money coming in. It's like I'm caught in this endless cycle where everything I earn is swallowed up by rent, groceries, utilities, and the kind of small expenses that sneak up on you until suddenly there's nothing left. Every morning, I wake up with this pit in my stomach. I check my bank account before I even get out of bed, like hoping the numbers will look different if I just stare hard enough. But they don't. They never do. It's always the same, just enough to cover the basics, and sometimes not even that. Some days I wonder if anyone else feels this way, or if it's just me. Like, maybe I'm failing at something everyone else somehow figured out. The economic situation hasn't made things any easier. Prices go up, and my paycheck stays the same. That's the cruel joke. I watch food prices spike at the grocery store, and I think about how I have to put back half the stuff I wanted to buy because I just can't afford it. The electric bill comes, and it's always higher than last month. I try to cut back on heating, but then I'm freezing at night, and I'm so tired it feels like I'm barely holding on. Every day is a negotiation between comfort and survival. I've had to become hyper-aware of every cent I spend. Even a coffee feels like a luxury now. I remember dreaming about little things I wanted, traveling, a nice dinner out, saving for a car or a place of my own. But those dreams seem so far away now. I postpone them, not just because I have to, but because they feel impossible. How do you plan for the future when your present is a constant scramble to cover rent and put food on the table? It's exhausting. Emotionally, it's draining. There's this constant weight, like carrying around an invisible backpack filled with debts and unpaid bills. I try to keep my head up, but some nights I lie awake, heart pounding, thinking about what happens if I get sick or lose one of my jobs. I have a few friends who tell me to just keep pushing, but sometimes pushing feels like I'm pushing against a wall that's only getting higher. Coping with all this pressure means finding little pockets of relief whenever I can. Sometimes it's a text from a friend, or a walk outside when the weather's nice. Other times, it's just putting on my favorite song and letting myself get lost in the music for a few minutes. But even those moments are fleeting. The worry creeps back in. The uncertainty. I'm scared. Scared that I'll never break free from this trap. That the system is built to keep people like me stuck in place, working hard but never quite getting ahead. I think about the future a lot, and it feels like looking through foggy glass. I want to believe things will get better. I want to hope that if I keep grinding, I'll get there eventually. But sometimes hope feels like a luxury too, like something I can't afford to waste. Still, I try. I try because what choice do I have? I remind myself that I'm not alone, even if it feels like it. I talk to others in the same boat and find some comfort in shared struggle. I think about the small victories, getting through a tough month, finding a cheaper grocery store, managing to save a tiny bit of money. Those moments remind me that I'm still moving forward, even if the pace is slow. One day, I want to look back on this time and see it as a chapter, not my whole story. I want to have the freedom to make choices without worrying about every dollar. I want to wake up without that pit in my stomach and feel excited about the future instead of scared. For now, I'm holding on to that hope, fragile as it is, because it's all I have. And maybe, that's enough. I never thought I'd be where I am now, caught in this relentless squeeze between what I make and what I owe. It's like walking on a treadmill that's speeding up every day, faster than I can keep pace, and no matter how much I run, I'm stuck in the same spot, just more exhausted. I'm 27, working full-time, trying to build a life, but the numbers never add up. They never have. The first time I really felt the weight of it was a few years ago, right after college. I graduated with a degree I thought would give me a decent shot at stability, but the market was already tight, and wages felt like a cruel joke. My rent went up the second year by nearly 10%, and utilities, groceries, gas, they all crept higher too. At the same time, my paycheck barely moved. Inflation was this abstract thing on the news then. Now, it's the thing that gnaws at every decision I make. I've gotten used to the phrase budgeting, but it doesn't feel like a helpful tool, more like a chain. Every month, I write out my budget with hopeful determination. I list out rent, utilities, student loans, groceries, transport, and somehow try to fit in savings or any emergency cushion. But inevitably, there's a gap. There's always more expense than income. When prices spike, I have to choose, pay my phone bill or buy groceries? Fill the car with gas to get to work or skip a night out with friends? It's not freedom. It's survival. And survival wears you down in ways you can't see right away. I remember one day recently when I had to decide whether to fix my broken laptop or pay for my medication. The laptop is my lifeline, it's how I work, apply for better opportunities, even connect with people. But my meds are essential for my mental health. I spend hours pacing my tiny apartment, feeling panic rise like a tide. I thought, what kind of life is this, where the tools to better myself compete with basic health? I ended up putting the laptop repair on hold and rationing my meds, a choice I never thought I'd have to make. The stress of it tightened my chest in ways I can't explain. Financial pressure is more than numbers. It's a shadow over everything, a constant low-grade anxiety that leaks into my relationships and self-worth. I sometimes lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I got trapped in this system that feels designed to keep me small. It's not just me, I know that. I hear it from friends, from coworkers, from strangers online. Yet that knowledge doesn't soften the loneliness of feeling stuck. When my friends talk about vacations, new gadgets, or moving to bigger apartments, I smile, but inside it feels like a wall between us, a reminder of all the dreams I've shelved. Dreams, that's another word loaded with grief. There was a time I wanted to travel, to see the world, to pursue a career that made me feel alive and not just paycheck to paycheck. I imagined buying a small place of my own, maybe even starting a family someday. Now, those dreams feel distant, like childhood stories you revisit but know you can't live out. I'm too busy juggling bills, too afraid to take financial risks. Every month that passes without progress chips away at hope. Coping isn't easy. Some days I just push through, telling myself it's temporary. I try to find small pockets of joy, a walk in the park, a good book from the library, a cup of coffee with a friend who understands. I keep reminding myself to be kind to myself, though some days I fail spectacularly and let despair sink in. I found some solace in writing about it, in sharing my story quietly because it reminds me I'm not invisible. I'm constantly searching for better opportunities, sending out resumes, taking extra shifts when I can, learning new skills online, free tutorials, late nights with caffeine-fueled hope. But every time I see an affordable housing list with hundreds ahead of me, or a job posting with qualifications I don't have, it's another reminder of how much uphill the climb is. Sometimes I wonder if the system is broken by design, or if I'm just not enough. Both thoughts are heavy, but I try to hold on to the flicker that maybe there's a way through. At night, before sleep takes over, I let myself dream, not the impossible, but the plausible. A small raise, a roommate moving out so I can save rent, finding a side hustle that actually pays. Maybe even a future where my financial pressure eases, where I can breathe a little easier, invest in myself, maybe even help others in the same bind. For now, those dreams keep me going, because without them, what's left? Living under constant financial pressure feels like living in slow motion and fast forward all at once, every choice magnified, every worry amplified. But beneath it all, I'm still here. I'm still trying. And maybe, just maybe, that counts for something. I never thought I'd feel this way by the time I hit 25, like I'm running in place, trapped in a loop where every step forward just gets swallowed up by rising bills and shrinking paychecks. It's not that I haven't tried, or that I don't work hard. I clock in the hours, I pick up extra shifts when I can, and yet somehow, the weight of money always feels heavier than the effort I put in. Every month, the cycle repeats itself. I get paid, and almost as soon as the money hits my account, it starts disappearing. Rent, always too damn high. Utilities creeping up, groceries that cost more every time I walk into the store. Gas for my car, which I need because public transit here is unreliable at best. Then there's the phone bill, insurance, unexpected expenses, my car needs new tires or my laptop acts up just when I can't afford a replacement. It's like the system is designed to keep me stuck, no matter how hard I try to break free. It's exhausting. Some days, I just stare at my bank balance, willing it to be higher, willing the numbers to change overnight. But of course, they don't. I feel the pressure squeeze me tight, like a vice on my chest that I can't loosen. There's this constant, nagging anxiety lurking in the background. Will I be able to pay rent this month? Will I have enough to eat? Can I afford to go to the doctor if I get sick? All these questions that most people probably don't think about daily, but for me, they're always there. And it's not just the money. It's the way this financial pressure colors everything in my life. I find myself turning down invitations from friends because I can't justify spending money on going out. Birthdays, weddings, casual nights out, all these moments where everyone else seems to be living their life fully, and I'm stuck calculating how much I'd have left if I spend just a little. Sometimes I lie to them about being busy, but mostly it's because I don't want to admit that I can't afford to join in. I miss the freedom of dreaming without limits. When I was younger, I had plans, big ones. I wanted to travel, to move to a new city, maybe even start a small business someday. I dreamed about taking classes that would boost my career or just simply having enough savings to feel safe. But those dreams have been put on hold indefinitely, because right now, survival takes up all the space. It's a lonely kind of struggle. People don't always understand what it's like to be caught in this slow grind where you're not exactly broke, but you're never comfortable either. It's the constant balancing act, the mental math that never stops. I know I'm not alone, but that knowledge doesn't always make it easier. Sometimes I feel ashamed, like I'm failing at adulting. Like everyone else figured out the system and I'm just floundering. Coping isn't easy, but I do what I can. I remind myself that this is temporary, even though it often feels permanent. I try to celebrate small wins, like when I manage to put a little money into savings, or when I find a good deal on something I need. I talk to friends who get it, even if they can't fully fix it. I've learned to be more resourceful, cooking meals at home instead of eating out, picking up side gigs when possible, cutting back on unnecessary expenses even if it means sacrificing little joys. There are nights when I cry myself to sleep because the pressure is just too much. Other times, I find myself lying awake, planning how I'll make next month's rent or which bills I can push back if something unexpected comes up. The fear of a single emergency spiraling into a crisis is always there, like a shadow lurking behind every decision. But despite everything, I'm still holding on to hope. I still believe there's a way out, even if it's far off. I remind myself that this is just one chapter, not the whole story. Maybe one day, I'll have the freedom to chase those postponed dreams. Maybe I'll get the chance to breathe without constantly counting every penny. Until then, I keep going, step by step, paycheck by paycheck, holding on to the belief that I'm more than my financial struggles. This is the truth of my life right now, complicated, frustrating, and sometimes heartbreaking. But it's also the story of resilience, of fighting through the pressure, and of dreaming quietly for better days ahead. I wake up every morning feeling like I'm already behind. The alarm buzzes, dragging me out of a restless sleep where the same worries play on repeat: rent, bills, groceries, debt. I lie there a moment longer, staring at the ceiling, trying to steady my breath before I start the day. Some days, it feels like I'm stuck in quicksand. The more I struggle, the deeper I sink. I'm 26 now, working a job that pays just enough to keep the lights on, but never enough to catch a break. The cost of everything keeps climbing. Rent goes up again this year, groceries are more expensive than I remember last month, and somehow the bus fare doubled without me noticing until I was digging through my wallet. Meanwhile, my paycheck barely budges. Inflation, they call it. But to me, it just feels like a trap. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' place, full of hope and excitement. I had dreams, small, maybe, but real. To save for a trip, to maybe start putting money aside for a car, to go back to school one day. Now those dreams feel distant, like something from another lifetime. Every dollar I earn is swallowed up by essentials, and I'm left scrambling to figure out what comes next. Will I have enough for next month's rent? Will I have to skip buying food this week to cover a bill? These aren't just questions, they're the weight I carry every single day. Sometimes I try to be optimistic. I tell myself that if I work harder, maybe I can get a raise or find a better job. But even that hope feels fragile, like a flickering candle in the wind. I've applied for so many jobs, but with the market the way it is, employers expect years of experience for positions that pay less than what I make now. And going back to school? That means taking on more debt or working extra hours. Neither feels feasible. There's a constant gnawing anxiety in the back of my mind. It wakes me at night, makes my chest tighten when I'm trying to focus on anything else. I'm exhausted, but I can't rest properly because the stress is always there, a shadow I can't shake. Some days, it's hard not to feel like I'm failing myself, my family, my future. I don't talk about it much. It's embarrassing, I guess. I don't want people to see me as weak or incapable. But the truth is, this pressure is isolating. Friends invite me out, but I say no because I can't afford it. I watch others spend freely, plan vacations, upgrade their phones, and I feel left behind. Not because I'm jealous, but because it reminds me of how tight my world has become, how much I've had to shrink my life just to survive. To cope, I've learned to get creative. I meal prep with cheap ingredients, take advantage of every free resource, and track every expense obsessively. I cut out things that used to bring me joy, like going to the movies or buying a coffee on my way to work. These small sacrifices add up, but sometimes they just make me feel more alone, more resigned to a life where comfort and spontaneity are luxuries I can't afford. Still, I hold on to something. A hope, maybe naive, that this isn't forever. I remind myself that this moment, as overwhelming as it is, doesn't define me. I try to find joy in small things: a call with a friend, a walk outside, a good book borrowed from the library. These little pockets of peace help me survive the grind. What hurts the most is the dreams I've had to postpone. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond the city limits. I wanted to finish my degree in something I loved, something that felt meaningful. I wanted to save enough to one day feel secure, to not constantly worry about the next bill or the next unexpected expense. But those dreams are on hold indefinitely. The system we live in is designed in a way that makes it nearly impossible for people like me to get ahead. Expenses rise faster than income, opportunities feel out of reach, and the future looks uncertain. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. But I do know I'm not giving up. Not yet. Maybe one day, the scales will tip. Maybe one day, I'll look back and see this struggle as a chapter, not the whole story. For now, I'm holding on, to hope, to resilience, to the quiet belief that my worth isn't measured by my bank account or the endless pressure that tries to crush me. And that's enough to keep me going, even on the hardest days. I never thought I'd be here, writing down all this, laying bare what I usually keep bottled up. But maybe it helps to put words on the weight I carry every single day. I'm 27, working 2 part-time jobs that barely add up to full-time hours. I'm not broke, not yet, but I'm caught in this relentless squeeze where my paycheck feels smaller before it even hits my account because expenses just keep rising, faster than anything I earn. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up and I'm stuck in place. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, they're all climbing, and my wages barely twitch. Every month, I'm forced to make impossible choices. Do I pay the internet bill so I can keep applying for jobs and keep up with the world, or do I buy groceries that'll last longer but be less nutritious? Do I fix my phone now because I need it for work, or wait a little longer and risk missing calls? This is the reality nobody warned me about. Growing up, I thought hard work would lead to steady progress, maybe a little breathing room. But here I am, constantly hustling, trying to patch together a life that feels like it's slipping through my fingers. The economic environment isn't just some abstract term anymore, it's a daily storm that shapes every decision I make. Take last week, for example. I got a call from the landlord saying the rent was going up again. I'd been holding out hope that maybe things would stabilize, but no. That increase meant I had to cut back somewhere else. I canceled my gym membership, even though it's one of the few things that keeps my mental health steady. Instead of fresh produce, I'm eating more canned and frozen food. I've even stopped seeing my therapist regularly because copays aren't cheap. Every sacrifice feels like a small death of hope. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I wake up some mornings with this tight knot in my chest, wondering how I'm going to make the next payment, how I'm going to keep the lights on this month. It's a mix of frustration, shame, and a deep, gnawing anxiety that never fully leaves. There are nights when I stare at the ceiling, heart racing, wondering if I'll ever get out of this cycle or if this is just my life now. I used to dream bigger. When I was younger, I pictured myself traveling, finishing school without the constant stress of tuition and bills, maybe starting a family someday. I wanted to buy a home, have a career that felt meaningful and stable. But now those dreams feel like luxuries I can't afford, not just financially, but emotionally. I've had to shelve so many plans, telling myself, maybe next year. Maybe when things get better. But when things get better seems like a distant, almost impossible idea. Inflation, stagnant wages, the rising cost of healthcare, it all makes me feel like I'm trapped in a system designed to keep people like me struggling. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just a cog in a machine that benefits others while grinding me down. It's hard to hold on to hope when every day reminds you of how fragile your footing is. Still, I try to cope. I find small moments of relief wherever I can. Sometimes it's a walk in the park, a text with a friend who understands. I journal, like now, to get these feelings out so they don't consume me. I remind myself that this isn't forever, even if it feels that way. And I try to be gentle with myself, acknowledging that surviving this is a form of strength. I don't want pity or empty platitudes. I just want the world to know this is real for so many of us, the young adults, the workers, the ones who don't make headlines but are silently drowning. We're navigating a reality where our efforts aren't enough to catch up, and that's not a failure of ours, but a failure of a system that's lost sight of human dignity. Someday, I hope to look back at this time and see how it shaped me, not just the hardship but the resilience. I want to believe that my postponed dreams aren't gone, just waiting for a better moment to bloom. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, even if it's one small, uncertain step at a time. Because giving up isn't an option, even if it feels like the easiest one. Sometimes I feel like I'm caught in this endless loop, a cycle where every day is just a bit heavier than the one before. I wake up, look at my bank app, and try not to let the numbers sink in too deeply. Because if I stare too long, the reality crashes in. My income hasn't grown in months, but the bills? They keep creeping up like they're on their own timeline, indifferent to my paycheck or my struggle. I'm 27 now, which should mean I'm starting to feel like I'm settling into life, maybe even getting ahead. But the truth is, I feel stuck in place, or worse, sinking slowly. Rent goes up, groceries cost more, the gas for my car is somehow more expensive every week, and the utilities bill keeps climbing. It's like these expenses are a living thing, growing faster than I can chase after. I work full-time, 2 jobs actually, one during the day and another shift on weekends, but somehow, it's never enough. Most mornings I force myself out of bed before the sun's even risen. Coffee is the only luxury I allow, and even then, I make it at home because buying it out feels like a slap to my dwindling budget. I've cut back on almost everything, eating out, new clothes, even seeing friends, because those dinners or drinks add up quickly. I tell myself it's temporary, that I'm just tightening my belt for now. But as the months drag on, the temporary starts feeling permanent. I keep a running list in my mind of things I should do but can't afford: fixing the car's brakes, buying a new phone since mine glitches constantly, saving for a deposit on an apartment that isn't a shoebox in a sketchy neighborhood. Sometimes I close my eyes and imagine what it'd be like to just have enough to breathe without the constant calculation of, can I afford this? Should I skip that? At night, after long shifts, when I finally sit down and my body is exhausted but my mind won't stop racing, I feel this crushing weight of despair mixed with frustration. The system feels rigged. Like no matter how hard I work, I'm just a hamster on a wheel that keeps spinning faster and faster. The minimum wage hasn't kept up with inflation, yet rent prices keep climbing, and healthcare costs don't even get me started. I'm always one unexpected bill away from tipping over into crisis. And the emotional toll? It's like this dull ache I carry around. Some days I'm numb to it, just powering through because what else can I do? Other days, I feel anxious, heart racing, chest tight, just thinking about next month's rent or whether my bank account will be able to cover groceries and gas. I try not to talk about it much because I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. But the truth is, it's exhausting to feel like you're always behind, always catching up but never quite making it. I used to dream bigger. I thought I'd have my own place by now, maybe even be saving for grad school or traveling somewhere new. I had this vision of a future where money wasn't the first thing I thought about every morning. But those dreams feel like distant stars now, beautiful but unreachable. I've had to push them aside, tuck them away so they don't hurt so much. Right now, survival is the dream. Just getting through the week without falling deeper into debt feels like an achievement. Coping with all this is a daily battle. Sometimes I talk to close friends, though I hold back the full truth because I don't want to burden them or sound hopeless. Other times, I escape into music or books, little pockets of peace where money doesn't matter. I've started journaling too, scribbling down my frustrations and fears. It helps to name the feeling, to give it form, even if the situation itself doesn't change right away. I also try to find small victories. Like when I manage to save $20 this month, or when I cook enough meals to last the week so I don't have to eat out. Those moments remind me I still have some control, even if it's tiny. But some nights, when everything quiets down, I lie awake wondering if this is what my life will always be like. Will I always feel like I'm drowning in bills? Will I ever break free from this system that seems designed to keep people like me in a constant state of struggle? Despite it all, there's a flicker of hope I'm not ready to give up. Maybe it's naive, but I still believe there's a way out, that if I keep working, keep pushing, something will change. Maybe it's a better job, a sudden opportunity, or just some shift in the world around me that finally makes it easier to breathe. Until then, I'll keep fighting through the noise, the stress, and the exhaustion. Because giving up feels even worse than this struggle. So this is my truth. Living under the weight of constant financial pressure isn't just about numbers. It's about how it shapes every part of my day, every decision, every feeling. It's about learning to survive in a world where expenses race ahead of income, and finding the courage to hold on to hope, even when it feels impossibly hard. I never thought I'd feel this way in my 20s, like I'm already drowning before I've had the chance to really swim. Every day is a balancing act where the scale almost always tips toward too much expense and not enough income. It's like the world around me is speeding up, and the cost of living is this relentless tide that keeps rising, dragging me deeper no matter how hard I claw back. I live in a small one-bedroom apartment in a city where rent feels like a cruel joke designed to test your soul. Every month, the number on the lease goes up just a little, like a slow drip, but for me, it's a flood. I work full-time, sometimes picking up extra shifts or freelance gigs, but no matter what I do, it's never quite enough to cover all the bills and still have a little left for anything else. And that anything else has been shrinking steadily: coffee with friends, spontaneous movie nights, saving for a trip, or even just a decent meal out. All those small joys that people talk about when they say live a little have become luxuries that feel more like distant memories than current realities. It's frustrating because I'm not lazy or unambitious. I graduated with decent grades, landed a job in my field, and try to keep learning new skills to get ahead. But the truth is, the salary increments are tiny and don't keep pace with how much rent, groceries, and even utilities have climbed. I sometimes joke bitterly that I'm in a race where the finish line keeps moving further away every time I take a step forward. Most days, the weight of it hits me like a physical ache in my chest. I wake up, glance at my phone, and see notifications about bills, reminders about due dates, or news about another price hike somewhere. It's exhausting. It's relentless. And the hardest part is that this pressure isn't just financial, it seeps into my emotional well-being. I catch myself holding back from reaching out to friends or family because I don't want to admit how tight things really are. There's a shame in feeling like you're always behind, even when you're working harder than ever. Food shopping is a daily negotiation. I find myself calculating prices per unit obsessively, hunting for discounts, and often settling for cheaper brands or smaller portions. I know it sounds trivial, but when you're constantly watching every cent, it becomes this mental treadmill that never ends. And eating out? That's a rare treat reserved for special occasions, not a weekly routine. Instead, I spend nights cooking simple meals, sometimes feeling like I'm trapped in a cycle of repetition because buying fresh, diverse ingredients is too expensive. Social events are complicated. Invitations feel like tests of how well I can hide my stress. Saying no repeatedly to gatherings is isolating, but saying yes feels like spending money I don't have. Sometimes I'm caught between wanting connection and needing to protect my fragile budget. The loneliness that sneaks in during these moments is heavy. It's as if my financial stress builds invisible walls between me and the people I care about. I've had to put some of my dreams on hold. Traveling, for example, is something I used to envision as a way to escape the grind and experience the world. But now, even saving for a plane ticket feels impossible. I've delayed upgrading my skills or going back to school because tuition and living costs would push me deeper into debt. The future feels uncertain, hazy, like I'm living in a waiting room where the good life I imagined keeps getting postponed indefinitely. Yet, despite the pressure and disappointment, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this phase isn't permanent, even if it feels endless. Some days I manage to save a tiny bit, a few dollars here or there, and it feels like a small victory. I've started looking into side projects or remote work opportunities that might bring more income without costing much time or money up front. I also find comfort in small routines, morning runs, reading, journaling, that remind me I'm more than my bank balance. It's hard not to get cynical when you feel like the system is stacked against you, where wages don't keep up with inflation and costs spiral beyond control. But I'm learning to be gentle with myself, to recognize that this struggle is real and valid. It's okay to feel tired and overwhelmed. It's okay to say that things are hard. Sometimes, I imagine what it would be like to wake up without the weight of financial anxiety pressing down. To live in a world where I'm not forced to choose between essentials and little pleasures. To dream freely again without feeling like I'm chained to a paycheck that barely stretches. For now, I'm taking it day by day, holding on to the small things that bring light and quietly working toward the future I hope is still possible. Because even if this system feels like a trap, I want to believe there's a way out. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. And until then, I keep swimming. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never thought I'd feel this way in my mid-20s. When I was younger, I had all these plans, big dreams about where I'd be by now, the kind of life I wanted to build. But the truth is, most days, I just feel stuck. Like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and no matter how hard I push, I'm not getting anywhere. The cost of everything keeps going up. Rent, groceries, bills, sometimes it feels like a slow, relentless tide that creeps higher every month, drowning whatever little I manage to save. Meanwhile, my paycheck, the money I work so hard for, barely stretches any farther than it did 6 months ago. Sometimes it even feels like it's shrinking, especially when I factor in the new taxes and rising insurance premiums. I live paycheck to paycheck. That's not just a cliché anymore, it's my reality. The pressure is constant. I wake up with this knot in my stomach, thinking about what's due that week. Rent is the biggest stressor, always looming. It's one of those things I can't avoid or delay without severe consequences. But after rent, the rest of the expenses pile up like an avalanche: utilities, groceries, transportation. I've cut back everywhere I can. No more eating out. No more spontaneous nights with friends. No more little luxuries that used to make life feel worth living. I didn't always live like this. For a while, I thought if I worked hard enough, if I played my cards right, I'd eventually be able to save, invest in myself, maybe start a business or buy a place of my own. But those plans have been put on hold indefinitely. I still dream about them, sometimes I even feel guilty for dreaming. It's like the weight of daily survival smothers all the hope and ambition I once had. Sometimes I look at people around me, their lives seeming so much easier, more secure. They talk about vacations, new cars, weekend getaways. I try not to be bitter, but it's hard not to feel invisible in a world that rewards stability and excess, both of which feel utterly out of reach for me. The emotional toll is heavy. There's a gnawing anxiety that lives in my chest most days, an ever-present reminder that one unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, could throw everything off balance. It's exhausting to stay alert all the time, to constantly strategize how to stretch every dollar. I worry about my future more than I let on. Sometimes I lie awake at night, thinking about what my life will look like in 5 or 10 years. Will I still be trapped in this cycle? Or will I find a way out? I cope by finding small pockets of joy. Sometimes it's a walk in the park or reading a book borrowed from the library. I keep a journal where I write down my thoughts, sometimes my frustrations, sometimes the tiny victories like managing to save a little extra this month. It helps to have an outlet, a way to process the pressure instead of letting it eat me up inside. I've also learned to lean on friends and family, though I try not to burden them too much. We all have our struggles. Still, when I can be open about my situation, it reminds me I'm not alone in this, even if it often feels that way. What keeps me going is the hope, however faint, that things will get better. I remind myself that this isn't the end of the story. Maybe one day, I'll be able to look back and see this period as a tough but defining chapter that shaped me into someone stronger, wiser. For now, I try to focus on what I can control, even if it feels like so little. I want to believe that the system won't trap me forever, that the economy won't always outpace my income, that I can still carve out a life where financial pressure doesn't dominate every decision I make. I dream of a time when I can say yes to opportunities without counting the cost first. When I can invest in my future instead of just surviving the present. Until then, I keep going. Because what else can I do? Giving up isn't an option. Even on the hardest days, I hold on to the hope that one day, I'll breathe a little easier, and finally feel free. I never thought I'd be here, stuck in this relentless loop where no matter how hard I try, it feels like the ground beneath me keeps shifting, pulling me deeper into a pit of financial strain. I'm 27 now, working a full-time job that pays just enough to keep me afloat, but somehow, I'm drowning in expenses that grow faster than my paycheck. It's exhausting. It's demoralizing. And most of all, it's lonely. I remember when I first moved out on my own, full of hope and excitement. I had this idea that if I worked hard, saved a little, and made smart choices, I'd carve out a life that felt stable and maybe even comfortable. But the reality has been so different. Rent alone gobbles up half of my income, and everything else, utilities, groceries, transportation, feels like a constant battle to keep the bills paid on time. Sometimes, I think about the pile of unopened letters on my desk and dread what might be inside: a late notice, a reminder of an overdraft, or worse, a phone call from a collection agency. Every month, I make the same calculations in my head, trying to predict where my money will go. The numbers rarely add up. One week, my car needs an unexpected repair. Another week, my electricity bill spikes without explanation. I've gotten so used to cutting corners that it almost feels normal to skip meals or avoid social invitations just to save a few dollars. But it wears on you, this constant vigilance, this fear that if I slip even a little, I'll fall even further behind. The hardest part is the feeling of being trapped. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I move, the finish line only seems to get farther away. Inflation has made everything more expensive: food, gas, healthcare. Meanwhile, my paycheck has barely budged. I see posts online from friends who are buying homes or traveling, and it stings. Not because I'm jealous of their accomplishments, but because I feel like I'm stuck in a system designed to keep people like me locked in a cycle of just getting by. Some days, the pressure gets so heavy it's hard to breathe. I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what could happen if I lose my job or if an emergency hits. The anxiety is relentless. I've had to teach myself how to breathe through panic attacks, how to push through days when I feel numb and hopeless. Sometimes, I feel guilty for feeling this way, like maybe I'm not doing enough or maybe I'm just weak. But deep down, I know this is real. This is life for so many people right now. To cope, I've developed a few small routines that help me feel a little bit of control. I track every dollar I spend, obsessively sometimes, just to make sure I'm not wasting anything. I cook at home almost every night, turning it into a creative outlet where I try to make something tasty and affordable. I've started journaling too, writing down my frustrations, my small victories, and my hopes for the future. It's a way to remind myself that even though things are tough now, this isn't the end of my story. Speaking of the future, that's where the hardest dreams live. I used to think I'd travel more, maybe go back to school, or even start a small business. Now, those dreams feel like distant fantasies, luxuries I can't afford to consider. I've had to postpone plans to buy a car, to move to a better neighborhood, or to even see a therapist regularly. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be able to save enough to break free from this financial squeeze. But despite it all, I still hold on to hope. I remind myself that this period of my life doesn't define me. I believe that with time and some luck, things can get better. I dream about the day when I won't have to stress about money every single day, when I can make choices based on what I want, not just what I can afford. Until then, I keep going, one paycheck, one careful decision, one small step at a time. It's hard to be honest about this because admitting it feels like admitting failure. But if my story helps even one person feel less alone, then it's worth sharing. Financial pressure isn't just about numbers, it's about how those numbers shape our lives, our emotions, and our futures. And I want the world to know that beneath the surface of every struggling young adult is a person fighting hard to survive and to dream again. That's me. That's us. I never imagined that money would feel like such a heavy weight pressing down on every part of my life, but here I am, in my mid-20s, caught in a relentless grind where no matter how hard I work, I can't seem to get ahead. The economic environment around me feels like a storm that never clears, expenses climb higher and higher, faster than my paycheck grows, and I'm stuck in the eye of it, barely holding on. Some days, I wake up already anxious about what the month will bring. The rent is due in a few days, and I know my account is running dangerously low. I've learned to dread opening emails and letters because bills hide inside them, waiting to remind me of what I owe. Utilities, groceries, student loans, each one like a chain tightening around me. I try to budget, cutting back wherever I can, but it never seems to be enough. The cost of living keeps rising, but my income stays almost the same, a slow drip that can't fill the widening hole in my finances. At work, I push myself harder than ever, sometimes working extra shifts, hoping to bring in a little more money. Yet, after taxes and necessary deductions, it feels like I'm running on a treadmill going nowhere. I envy people who can afford to splurge on a night out or a spontaneous weekend trip. For me, those things are distant dreams, luxuries I've had to shelve indefinitely. The pressure doesn't just live in my bank account, it lives in my mind and heart, whispering doubt and exhaustion at every turn. Everyday decisions have become tactical battles. Do I pay for the bus this week or try to bike even though it rains? Should I skip buying that small treat I usually look forward to or save the money in case the car needs urgent repairs? I remember last month, when the old stove broke down, and I had to borrow money from my parents, something I swore I'd never do again, because replacing it wasn't optional. It felt like admitting defeat, a reminder of how fragile my situation is. Social life has suffered. I don't have the energy or money to join friends for dinner or movies. Invitations become bittersweet. I want to say yes, but I can't. There's this constant feeling of being left behind, like I'm watching life from the sidelines while everyone else moves forward. It's lonely, and sometimes it makes me angry and sad in equal measure. I know people don't always understand. They say things like, just budget better, or you're young, you'll figure it out. But when you're juggling the rising cost of rent, food, medical bills, and still trying to save for the future, it's not that simple. Emotionally, this pressure is exhausting. Some nights, I lie awake staring at the ceiling, the weight of uncertainty pressing on my chest. What if I lose this job? What if an emergency happens? I try not to think too far ahead, but the future feels like a foggy road with no clear destination. I'm terrified of falling deeper into debt or losing the small stability I've managed to scrape together. I've had dreams, big ones. I wanted to travel, to explore different countries, to meet people from other cultures. I dreamed of going back to school for something I love, maybe art or literature, to find a career that truly inspires me. I imagined owning a small apartment, cozy and my own, where I could plant flowers on the windowsill and invite friends over without worrying about the cost of heating or electricity. But those dreams have been quietly packed away, replaced by the harsher realities of making it through the month. The word later has become my constant companion, a reminder that these hopes are postponed indefinitely. Still, I try to cope. I find small moments of peace in simple things, a walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library, the warmth of a cup of tea on a cold morning. I talk openly with a few close friends about what I'm going through, and that honesty feels like a lifeline. Sometimes, I allow myself to imagine what life could be like without these financial pressures, and that daydream fuels a quiet hope inside me. I'm not ready to give up on myself or my future, even if the path there is clouded and slow. I know I'm not alone. There are so many people, especially young adults like me, navigating this same maze of rising costs and stagnant wages, feeling trapped in a system that seems designed to keep us barely afloat. It's a frustrating and painful place to be, but it's also shaping who I am, teaching me resilience, patience, and the value of small victories. So, here I am, still standing, still dreaming quietly beneath the surface, trying to find a way forward in a world where expenses grow like weeds but my income feels like a fragile seedling struggling to survive. It's hard. It's exhausting. But I hold on to hope, because I believe that someday, I'll break free from this cycle, and my dreams will no longer have to wait. Until then, I keep moving, one small step at a time. I never thought I'd end up here, living paycheck to paycheck, watching the numbers in my bank account like a countdown clock ticking closer to zero every single day. Growing up, I imagined my 20s as a time of freedom, exploration, maybe even a little success. But instead, it feels like I'm stuck in this relentless grind, caught in a system that's designed to drain me dry. Every morning, I wake up with a knot in my stomach. It's not just the stress of work, it's the constant, gnawing anxiety about money. Rent went up again this year, and so did utilities. Groceries seem to cost more with every trip to the store. The bus fare, which I rely on because I can't afford a car, is creeping up too. Meanwhile, my income barely budges. My job gives me a small raise now and then, but it's never enough to keep pace with how fast everything else is inflating. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up while I'm stuck in slow motion. This feeling of being trapped, that's the worst part. Like no matter how hard I try, I'm just sinking deeper. There are days I look at my bills and wonder if I should just give up, let it all slide, and live without the weight of debt and overdue notices on my back. But I can't. There's pride in paying my own way, and fear too, fear of what happens if I don't. The system makes it clear, fall behind once, and you're out. It's a brutal cycle. I've had to make choices that break my heart. The little things I once took for granted, going out with friends, buying a book just because I wanted to read it, or even getting a coffee that wasn't from the cheapest place in town, have all been sacrificed. I remember last year, I was supposed to take a trip with some friends. A week away, nothing extravagant. But when the time came, I told them I couldn't afford it. It wasn't just the money for the trip, it was the fear of all the expenses I'd have to cover while I was gone, knowing I couldn't miss a paycheck. That trip was supposed to be my break from the monotony, a chance to breathe. Instead, I stayed home and worked extra hours just to cover the cost of rent and groceries. Even small dreams feel unreachable. I want to go back to school, get a degree that could open doors to a better job, something that pays more than just enough to scrape by. But tuition fees, textbooks, and living costs make that a distant fantasy. I applied for scholarships and loans, but the debt scares me. It's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire. I know education could be a way out, but it feels like a gamble I can't afford to take right now. Emotions swirl beneath the surface: frustration, exhaustion, shame. Sometimes I feel invisible, like the world has moved on to bigger things while I'm stuck counting pennies. It's hard not to compare myself to people my age who seem to have their lives together, buying homes or starting families. But even then, I wonder how much of that is real and how much is just the illusion of stability that social media loves to show. I'm not sure I could even afford to keep up with that pace, if I wanted to. To cope, I've developed little rituals: checking my budget religiously, meal prepping to save money, walking everywhere instead of taking transit. I've gotten good at hunting for discounts and using coupons. Sometimes I treat myself with something small, like a candy bar or a favorite snack, as a reminder that life still holds moments of sweetness. Talking openly about money with close friends helps, too. It's comforting to know I'm not alone, that others feel the squeeze just like I do. But even with all the coping mechanisms, there's a dull ache beneath it all, a longing for something more. I dream of a future where I don't have to say no to opportunities because of money. A future where my hard work leads to growth, not just survival. Where I can save, invest, maybe even buy a little home of my own. Sometimes I close my eyes and imagine waking up without that constant financial pressure. What would it feel like to breathe freely, to plan vacations or hobbies without worrying about the cost? That hope keeps me going. It's fragile, and some days it feels farther away than others, but it's there. I remind myself that this isn't forever. The economic environment is tough, sure, but I have to believe that with persistence and maybe a bit of luck, things can get better. I want to believe that my story isn't just one of struggle, but also resilience. For now, I'll keep pushing through the hard days. I'll keep tracking expenses, declining invitations I can't afford, and delaying dreams until the right moment. Because deep down, I know that even if this system is rigged to keep people like me down, giving up isn't an option. The future is uncertain, but it's mine to shape, and one day, I hope to tell a different story. One where I'm no longer trapped by financial pressure but thriving beyond it. Until then, this is my reality. And I'm learning how to live in it, one careful step at a time. I never thought I'd find myself here, trapped in a cycle that feels like it's pulling me under, no matter how hard I swim. Growing up, I imagined by my mid-20s I'd be carving out a life that felt stable, maybe even comfortable. But reality? It's been a relentless grind, a constant push against forces way bigger than me. The economic world I live in feels like quicksand, sucking me deeper the more I struggle. Every morning, I wake up with this weight in my chest. Not just the usual Monday kind of tiredness, but a deep, gnawing anxiety about money. How much is in my bank account? What bills need to be paid this week? Will my paycheck even cover rent, groceries, and the little things that keep life from feeling like total deprivation? The cost of everything keeps rising: rent, utilities, food, insurance, faster than I can earn. And my income? It's almost like it's stuck in slow motion. This gap isn't just a number on paper, it's a daily reminder that I'm falling behind, like running on a treadmill that's speeding up but you can't speed up with it. Some days, I break down quietly. Not out of despair, exactly, but out of exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that's deeper than sleep can fix. It's the fatigue of juggling a dozen small crises, skipping a meal to save money, choosing the cheaper prescription even though I worry it won't work as well, declining a night out with friends because $20 might mean the difference between eating this week or next. I hate how much I have to weigh every single decision against a budget that feels impossibly tight. And the emotional toll? It's huge. I feel like I'm carrying around this invisible backpack filled with bricks labeled guilt, fear, shame, and frustration. Guilt because I can't help my family when they need me, even though I want to. Fear that I'll lose my job or get sick, because one emergency could wipe me out completely. Shame because society expects us to be independent adults by now, yet I still feel so fragile financially. Frustration at a system that rewards privilege and punishes those of us without a safety net. I remember when I first moved out on my own. There was a burst of hope, freedom to make my own choices, a sense of possibility. But that hope was quickly tempered by reality. Rent eats up over half my paycheck, and utilities, internet, phone bills chip away at the rest. That leaves barely enough for groceries, transportation, and the rare treat. I keep track obsessively, hoping to catch some unexpected surplus, but it never seems to come. Every month is a tightrope walk, and I'm afraid one slip means I fall into debt again. Debt. That word haunts me. I've learned to be cautious with credit cards, but sometimes it's the only way to get through a rough patch. The interest piles up fast, turning small emergencies into bigger ones. I've had to postpone doctor visits, dental cleanings, and even prescriptions because I can't afford them right now. I tell myself it's temporary, but when is temporary going to end? I cope by trying to focus on the little victories. Like stretching a meal into 3 days or finding a second-hand jacket when winter hits. I've become a master of DIY repairs and coupon hunting. Sometimes I joke with friends that I should start a blog called How to Adult on a Shoestring. Humor helps, even if it's a fragile shield. I also try to lean on my close friends, the ones who don't judge when I have to say no. But I'm always aware of how limited my social life is because of money. Birthday parties, concerts, travel, things I used to dream about feel so far away now. Speaking of dreams, I've had to put so many on hold. I wanted to go back to school, maybe get a degree that could open doors to better paying work. But tuition? Books? Lost income from going part-time or quitting work? It's not feasible right now. I dreamed of traveling, seeing the world beyond my city. Instead, I spend weekends wandering local parks, imagining the places I'd visit if I had the chance. I wanted to save for a down payment on a small place of my own, a space that felt truly mine. But with rising housing costs, that seems like a fantasy for another lifetime. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I'm failing, if I'm just not smart enough or not working hard enough. But I know those thoughts aren't true. I work 2 jobs, keep a strict budget, apply for every assistance program I qualify for. I'm doing everything right by the book. The problem is the system isn't built for people like me to succeed easily. It favors those with connections, inherited wealth, or a cushion to fall back on. I don't have that cushion. I'm balancing on a thin edge, hoping the ground won't give way. The future feels like a foggy horizon. I want to believe it will get better, that someday I'll breathe easier. I want to imagine a life where I don't have to count pennies just to eat or pay the electric bill. I want to think about buying a car that isn't 15 years old, or taking a real vacation, or even having savings to handle a medical emergency. But those hopes are fragile. I keep them alive by reminding myself this is just a chapter, not the whole story. I don't want pity or charity. I want understanding. I want the world to see that people like me exist, young adults working hard but still struggling, caught in a system that's tilted against us. And I want to be heard, not as a statistic, but as a person who dreams and hopes, who fights every day to hold on to dignity and possibility. So here I am, still swimming, still fighting, trying to find small moments of light in a life shadowed by financial pressure. Some days it feels like I'm running out of breath. But I'm not giving up yet. Because even in this suffocating cycle, hope is stubborn. And maybe, just maybe, that hope will be the thing that carries me forward. I never thought I'd feel this way in my 20s, like I'm sinking deeper with every breath I take. Not because of anything catastrophic, no, just because life keeps getting heavier, and the weight never seems to lift. It's this constant pressure, almost invisible, but relentless, money. The endless, suffocating push and pull of expenses and income that never quite meet. I grew up with the usual dreams, you know? Finish college, get a steady job, maybe travel a bit, then settle into a place of my own. Simple stuff. But here I am, years later, still juggling bills like a circus act, feeling like the ground is shifting beneath me. Every month feels like a fresh mountain to climb, and the peak keeps rising. It's not just the numbers on a screen. It's the way it seeps into every corner of my life, how I decide what to eat, where to go, if I can even afford a night out. Last week, I stared at my grocery list for almost an hour, crossing items off one by one, trying to make it fit into a shrinking budget. I know it sounds petty, but choosing between fresh vegetables or cheaper canned goods feels like choosing between health and money. And usually, money wins. The economic environment makes it all worse. Rent is skyrocketing in my city, and wages barely move. I work a decent job, or at least I thought it was decent when I started. But now, every raise is just a patch, barely keeping up with inflation. I read about people buying homes, saving for retirement, and I wonder if they live in a different world. Sometimes, I feel like I'm in a treadmill, running hard but staying in the exact same spot. The more I try to get ahead, the more expenses catch up: car repairs, medical bills, subscription services, student loans, utilities that creep up each year. It's isolating, too. I don't tell many people how tight things really are because I'm embarrassed. How do you admit you can't go out with friends because you don't have the money, or that you're constantly stressed about whether you can pay rent on time? There's this shame wrapped around struggling financially, like it's a personal failure rather than a system designed to wear people down. Some days, the pressure feels like a weight on my chest that makes it hard to breathe. I lie awake at night, calculating the weeks left before the next paycheck, wondering if it will be enough. Sometimes I dream of escaping it all, moving somewhere cheaper, changing careers, or even just taking a break. But breaks cost money, and moving requires savings I don't have. It's a vicious cycle. I cope by finding small pockets of joy wherever I can. A quiet walk in the park, a free event in the community, cooking a simple meal from scratch. I keep a journal where I write down my thoughts and hopes, like an anchor to remind me there's more than just this struggle. I also try to learn new skills online for free, hoping to boost my chances of a better job or side hustle someday. But dreams have definitely been postponed. I had plans to travel, to go back to school, to maybe start my own business. Those ideas feel farther away now, almost like fantasies. It's painful to admit, but I'm learning to accept that sometimes survival is the biggest victory I can hope for. The freedom I imagined, of choosing what to do with my time and money, feels like a distant light, flickering just out of reach. Still, I hold on to hope. Not the naive kind, but a stubborn flicker that refuses to die. Maybe the system is rigged, maybe I'm trapped in this endless chase, but I believe in moments of grace, in community, in small wins. I believe I can find a way forward, even if it's slower and harder than I ever imagined. For now, I take it day by day, finding strength in honesty, in vulnerability. Because sharing this story, this real, raw struggle, makes me feel less alone. And maybe that's the first step to breaking free from a system that feels designed to keep me down. I wake up most mornings with this heavy weight sitting in my chest, like a slow, quiet storm brewing right beneath my skin. It's not a physical pain, but it's just as real. It's the weight of knowing that no matter how hard I try, the numbers on my bank statement are stubbornly refusing to grow, while everything I need to pay for somehow keeps climbing higher, faster. I'm 27 now, and for years I thought the toughest part of being an adult would be finding myself, figuring out who I am, what I want to do, and where I want to be. But the truth is, the hardest part has been just keeping my head above water. The endless cycle of bills, rent, groceries, insurance, and the little emergencies that seem to pop up when I least expect them, it all feels like this relentless tide that's pulling me under. Some days, I can still taste the hope I had when I graduated college. I imagined I'd land a decent job, maybe not a dream career right away, but something stable enough to start building my life, a place to call my own, maybe a trip here and there, dinner with friends without constantly checking the prices on the menu. I pictured saving for things that actually mattered to me, maybe a camera, because I love photography, or even just a weekend getaway. But those dreams feel like echoes now, distant and fading. The economy's been tough. Everyone says inflation's going down, but all I see is my rent going up every year, faster than my paychecks do. My job is steady, but raises barely keep pace with the cost of living. I've started thinking of my paycheck like a bucket with holes. The water, money, keeps coming in, but no matter how much I pour, it leaks out too quickly through rent, utilities, food, and the little extras that have become essentials: internet, phone, healthcare. Everyday decisions turn into puzzles I'd never expected to solve. Do I buy the slightly more expensive but healthier groceries, or the cheap stuff that leaves me hungry quicker? Should I go out for coffee with a friend, knowing I won't have lunch money later? Do I fill my gas tank fully or just enough to get to work and back? It's exhausting. Small things, but they pile up and make me feel like I'm failing at being an adult. And there's the feeling of being trapped. Trapped in this system where the rules aren't fair. The cost of living accelerates like a speeding train, and I'm sprinting just to keep pace, but my legs are tired, and the ground keeps slipping out beneath me. There's no pause button, no moment to catch my breath, only this constant push forward with no guarantee that tomorrow will be better. It's lonely sometimes, too. I don't talk about money much with my friends because I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or envy them if they're doing better. Plus, everyone's got their own struggles, so we don't really have the space to share those conversations. But inside, I carry this constant anxiety, a knot of worry that tightens every time I open a bill or check my bank app. I've had nights where I lie awake, heart racing, wondering if I'm one missed paycheck or one medical emergency away from losing everything. To cope, I've had to learn how to be ruthless with my spending, cutting out anything extra, which means no dining out, no new clothes, no hobbies that require spending money. I try to find free or cheap distractions, long walks, streaming old shows, reading books from the library. Sometimes I take on extra freelance work, even when I'm exhausted, just to make a bit more cash. But that comes with its own trade-offs: less sleep, less time to recharge, less mental space to dream. And speaking of dreams, those have shifted too. What I once imagined as a future full of possibility now feels like a distant fantasy. Owning a home? That's out of reach for years, if not decades. Traveling? A luxury I can't justify. Saving for retirement? I barely know how to start when I'm just trying to keep the lights on. Sometimes I catch myself thinking, maybe this is just how life is supposed to be, working endlessly, barely scraping by. It's a scary thought, because I want more than just survival. But even with all this pressure, there's a small flicker of hope. I hold on to the idea that this is temporary, that one day the economy might shift, that my skills might land me a better paying job, that I can build something stable. I remind myself that the tough days don't define me, even if they shape me. I write down small goals, like building an emergency fund or taking an online course to boost my skills. Those little victories keep me going. Sometimes I talk to my family about it. They understand, but they can't fix it, and I don't want to burden them. I find comfort in the few friends who get it, those who don't judge or offer empty advice but just listen. It's in those moments of honest connection that I feel less alone, less like I'm drowning. Financial pressure isn't just about money. It's about the way it chips away at your confidence, your sense of freedom, your ability to plan for a future that feels secure. It's about the exhausting mental load of constantly making trade-offs, the quiet fear of unexpected expenses, and the lonely hope that maybe, just maybe, someday things will get easier. For now, I keep pushing. One day at a time. Because what else can I do? I want to believe that someday, when I look back on this time, I'll see it as the fire that forged me, the struggle that made me stronger, more determined, and maybe even wiser. Until then, I carry the weight, try to breathe through the anxiety, and hold on to the smallest spark of hope. I never imagined that by the time I hit my mid-20s, my life would feel like an endless balancing act, a constant juggle where the weights keep getting heavier but my hands are slipping. Every day, I wake up and run through a mental checklist that's become a kind of ritual: rent, groceries, utilities, transit card refill, phone bill, student loan payment. Each item is a little storm cloud, dark and looming, and no matter how carefully I plan, they always seem to rain harder than I expect. It's strange, the way money controls everything without ever announcing itself. I'm not even talking about luxury or extras, just the bare essentials. Food that won't break the bank but is just enough to keep me going. Clothes that are more practical than fashionable. A place to live that's safe but small and noisy, a constant reminder that comfort is a privilege I'm not allowed to afford. I know this is the reality for a lot of people my age, but that doesn't make it hurt any less. There was a time when I thought hard work would pay off in a straightforward way. I graduated college, landed a decent job in my field, and was proud of how far I'd come. But then, life hit the usual snags, and the not-so-usual ones. Rent prices skyrocketing faster than my paycheck increases, bills piling up like a slow avalanche, unexpected expenses that drain what little cushion I managed to scrape together. It feels like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, even though I'm exhausted and every muscle aches. Sometimes I sit at my small kitchen table, staring at the numbers on my bank app like there's some kind of puzzle I can't solve. How did I spend so much on groceries this week? Why does the utility bill keep climbing even when I'm so careful? How am I supposed to save for emergencies when my paycheck vanishes the moment it lands? I've become obsessed with tracking every cent, clipping coupons, hunting for discounts online, switching to cheaper brands. Small victories, but they barely move the needle. The pressure doesn't just live in my budget. It seeps into my mind, twisting itself around my self-worth. There's this gnawing feeling that I'm somehow failing, that I'm not doing enough or trying hard enough. Friends talk about travel plans, new gadgets, social events, and I feel this mix of envy and guilt, envy because they seem to breathe easier, guilt because I can't join in without stressing myself into a panic. I have to remind myself that this isn't a competition, but it's hard not to compare when everything seems so out of reach. I've had to postpone dreams that once seemed so close. Moving out on my own, traveling to new countries, even something as simple as buying a decent laptop or taking a weekend off for a mini vacation, all those things feel like luxuries now. I tell myself they're just delays, not cancellations, but every month that passes with no change chips away at that hope. It's like watching a favorite photo fade, colors dulling little by little. My emotional well-being has taken hits I didn't expect. Stress is a constant companion, sometimes low, sometimes crushing. There are nights when I lie awake, heart racing, worrying about what happens if I lose my job or a bill comes that I can't pay. Anxiety wraps itself around me tightly, and I have to find ways to cope. Some days it's just breathing exercises, other days it's calling a friend and letting the frustration spill out. I've started journaling, writing down the rawness of it all, because sometimes speaking it aloud feels too vulnerable. Despite all this, I try to hold on to gratitude. I'm lucky to have a roof over my head, a job, and people who care. I try to find joy in small things: a walk in the park, a good cup of coffee, a book that takes me somewhere else for a little while. These moments remind me that life isn't just about survival, even if that's the loudest part right now. Looking ahead, my hope feels fragile but persistent. I want to believe that this financial pressure isn't permanent, that it's a season I'm going to get through. I dream of a future where I'm not constantly counting pennies, where I can invest in myself without fear, where stability isn't a distant concept but a reality. I imagine a life where money isn't the barricade to happiness, but a tool I can manage with ease. Until then, I'm learning to be kinder to myself. To accept that this struggle is real and valid, and that it doesn't define my worth. That even in the tightest places, there's room for hope. Maybe it's naive, but it's also necessary, to keep moving forward, step by step, paycheck by paycheck, toward a life that feels a little more free. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.